Holy crap! Okay, now that I've had a minute to breathe and I've gotten my initial reaction up online, we can, really dive into this thing and pick it apart. And like Daisy Ridley's character, Rey, we're going to scavenge the hell out of this thing. Yes, during the Force Awakens panel, they revealed that she's a scavenger in like a junkyard for spaceships, which is pretty darn cool. So this is my shot-by-shot analysis of the trailer, the second teaser for Star Wars The Force Awakens. If you haven't seen the teaser yet, you can click right here to see it, as well as my initial reaction. And as you'll see from my review, I didn't quite know what to make of it the first time around because it's very different than the first teaser that we saw. But again, this is the shot-by-shot analysis, and we're going to get down to business right now. All right, so let's begin. Okay, so as I said, I can calm down a little bit. I watched the whole Star Wars panel, and they gave us a lot of information, which I'll also be covering either later today or tomorrow morning. All right, so the old Lucasfilm logo, they took the green glow off, which I think is an interesting choice. I like that. All right, our opening shot here. I love this. I think it's beautiful. Now, of course, we started in the sand and we returned to the sand. And you see that little ship. I'm waiting to freeze it till just the right moment. There, I'll pick right there. I really love the contrast between that little speeder that's making its way across, kind of like our new BB-8 friend, the new droid. And in the background is like not only a destroyed spaceship, which we, of course, were so prominently displayed in the first trilogy, episodes 4 through 6. But here, so not only are we having a throwback to those films, but it's also a throwback to the Empire. And I think it really makes you wonder what has happened since, that original trilogy, episodes 4 through 6. What's happened? I mean, I think the best thing this trailer does is raise questions. I think it has a few flaws. It's not as perfect as the first teaser, but one of the things it gets right is that it makes you ask questions. Oh, and I just realized there's also a ship here in the foreground. And I wonder how all these ships got here. Was there a battle over this planet? Or, is this just where they dump them? It's very, very interesting. I would think based on the proximity and that they're not all together, but they're spread apart a little bit, and the way this one's positioned, that they all came crashing down maybe out of the sky, which is super cool. All right, it's a delicate balance from what you allude to alluding to things. Do you allude too much? Because, in film, it's show, don't tell. So I hope J.J. Abrams can strike the right balance there. All right, so moving on. Okay, what do we got here? Very long fade to black, that's what we have there. All right, now, okay, that's also, Luke Skywalker is talking over this, and he's telling the next member of the Skywalker family that it's no picnic being a Skywalker. They seem to be a little bit cursed. There's the turning to the dark side, there's the, flirting with incest. It's a tough gig. But I think that this is another throwback to the past. A relic. This is a relic, Darth Vader's mask. And also, what happened to it? And did he save it? Does Mark Hamill's Luke Skywalker save it? I'm really rooting, by the way, for Luke Skywalker to be evil. This trailer doesn't do much to make me feel like that's going to be the case, but I really want it to be the case. I think it would be a very interesting thing to do with Luke Skywalker. I know we differ on this, but I feel pretty strongly about it. I think it's what Mark Hamill needs. Because I don't know if the character has anywhere left to go, right? I don't want to see him just become an Obi-Wan Kenobi redux, right? I think that's a little too cyclical for me, for my tastes. All right, so moving on. Well, that looks bad. It looks, by the way, I just saw like a limo car, one of those black cars in the city that's not supposed to pick people up, and the grill on that car was like an old Cadillac. Looked like Darth Vader's, the mouth on his mask. So that's just funny, like, his grill's all messed up. Okay, then our old pal R2-D2, and of course that's Luke Skywalker's bionic hand. And I like that he and R2-D2 are still together, right? It's like at the end of the universe, at the edge of your lifespan, who's with you still? The robots. I think that's very cool, and I'd be interested to see if they kind of dive into that a little bit more in this new trilogy. I think this is, again, J.J. Abrams is dancing on the edge of a knife here in terms of balancing the old with the new. And I think with the new aspects, he's trying to maybe add a little more depth, a little bit more, thinking to the trilogy, which I think is really fantastic. Because George Lucas, God bless him, not big on the thinking. The scripting was his weakest point, as Harrison Ford was all too happy to point out many times. So I like the bionic hand, but again, this makes me feel like he's not going to be evil. Unless this is like a Kylo Ren origin story? I don't think so. All right, so moving on. Now this is interesting. Here, okay, right there. I don't know who's handing it to her. Let's try to see if we can figure it out. I don't know. Someone either kneeling or much smaller. Maybe a child. I don't know. But I think obviously, since my sister, that's supposed to be. Well, it's implied that it's Princess Leia. We'll see. There's a rumor going around that she's now a queen. There was that cast list that was leaked for the film. A little bit of Elsa from Frozen action there. Like, she's not a princess, she's a queen. And I have to say, I'll talk about Star Wars Celebration again later today or early tomorrow. But Carrie Fisher looked fantastic. Who knew that a new Star Wars movie is what it would take to get her back on track? Because she's had some problems, but I think to her credit, she seems to have really at least temporarily overcome them. And I think that I would love to see Carrie Fisher return to her former glory with this film. And I hope she's not just there, as just for service to the original film. I hope she has at least a meaty supporting role. But the thing that bothers me a little bit about this shot is that it seems almost too old school and a little too low tech, right? So we'll see. Again, it's that balancing act that J.J. Abrams has given himself. He wants to go practical special effects, visual effects, but to what point and when do you actually start hurting your film rather than helping it, right? It's an interesting situation. He's forging into new territory here, so good for him. All right, she's got a lightsaber. Whose is it? All right. These face blacks are so long when you don't have the sound. Oh, I love this. As I mentioned in my first initial reaction, I love this old school font, right? It's just such a great, this is a throwback I do appreciate. And I think it's really funny being like, this Christmas, 1980 something. And you're like, wow, no, this is 2015. So that's a lot of fun. So then we go, contrasting that, we go into a very modern shot. I think the most modern shot we've seen yet of the X-Wings in formation. Now, I have to say, to be honest, in the teaser trailer, I preferred that shot of these X-Wings. And I think it's the same formation because they're going over the water. And that, the revving up and the way the sound was used there, it had like more of an anticipation. You were like, oh yeah, let's go. And here you're just like, oh, look at them. You don't feel like you're going with them. You're like, you're watching them take off. You're like, oh, have fun, guys. I guess I'm not going. And that's something that, I feel was a quality that is lost here from the first teaser trailer. All right, so moving on. Okay, this is funny. Do you see that right there? Poe Dameron's helmet, like, shakes. And that so distracted me. I was like, hey, Poe, I don't think that's going to protect your head very well if it doesn't really stay on there. I think your helmet's not supposed to have a lot of movability because it's probably going to fly off really easily, right, if something were to happen. I mean, the way that helmet moves, if he were to do a barrel roll, I think it would plop off his head. So, again, this is an instance where practical special effects, perhaps, maybe a little bit too far in the practical direction. Again, balancing act. All right, so moving on. I think it's also the first shot of Poe Dameron in the teaser. I like that better than this one. All right. Oh yes, wait a second. Kylo Ren action. I'm super excited about Kylo Ren. I want it to be Luke Skywalker so bad. It's probably Andy Serkis. And I'll take Andy Serkis, right? Well, I'll take Andy Serkis. There it is in action. Everybody, he didn't cut his hand off. Everyone's like, those side sabers are ridiculous. His hand would be chopped off. Well, so far, so good. And a very quick shot there of Daisy Ridley and John Boyega running. It looks like they're in the shipyard, and you can see BB-8 behind them. She looks very different here than she did in the teaser trailer. More Princess Leia-like. Everyone's theory is that Luke Skywalker is talking to her here, and that she is the next Skywalker. So I can see that. I can see the Princess Leia, similarities. Oh, and you can see the Empire-type ship there in the back. I guess that's what's firing on them. Real small in the background. That's very cool. But when you were the Star Wars Celebration, they were like being all buddy-buddy, Daisy Ridley and Carrie Fisher. They were like, we've spent a lot of time together on set and become friends because you're playing mother-daughter. Although, what is it with the Skywalker family and jettisoning their children out into the wilderness? Maybe that's why the family has so many problems. It's like, you just like, you're not turtles. You don't like leave your eggs and then go into the ocean. You gotta mentor these people. I wonder what she's carrying. I think that's very, very interesting. All right, we do know that from the teaser she finds a lightsaber. So here, it's the old Force Death Gripper, using the old telekinesis there. This is very cool. Kylo Ren, the mask, our first look at the mask. These images for the mask debuted earlier today, and everyone was like, is that the mask? Is this just fan art? And it's the mask. And it's really funny. You know, I talked about the grill on Darth Vader's mask, and this kind of reminds me of like a 1950s diner on his forehead, right? It's just a little bit, it's an interesting choice. I would say that as cool as his lightsaber is, I would say his mask is like the opposite of cool. I'm not a big fan of the mask. I'm hoping I like it more in action, and I hope there's a big reveal as to who is under said mask. But that's a great shot with the lighting. Lightsabers make for, you know, great mood lighting, don't they? Oh, I just love them so much. All right, so he's in the middle of battle here. All right, moving on. Now this, as I said in my my initial reaction, this is the old Third Reich references, right? That the Empire stands in for the Third Reich. And we see, although, a new kind of symbol up there, I believe. I'm not quite, we don't see it fully. But more stormtroopers. I like that they're tweaked a little bit. They look pretty much the same to me. It's just enough to make everybody who has a stormtrooper costume that they made have to make another one. I love stormtroopers. I'm so excited about the Finn angle that he's a stormtrooper. But I was hoping to see a little bit more of that. I'm such a big fan of supporting characters, and I like that J.J. Abrams seems to be turning the spotlight on supporting characters here. So I want to see, like, what's it like in the stormtrooper locker room, right? That's something that I'm really chomping at the bit to see, and I'm not being given, like, what I was promised. So that's a little bit of a frustration for me. And you can see a figure there in the background, a cloaked figure. Who is it? We'll find out soon enough. All right, moving along here. Okay, this, I have to say, it was fascinating how female-centric they were at the Star Wars Celebration panel. It was a bold choice. Like, Star Wars is like, Grace, all-female moviegoers, we really want you to come and see Star Wars. And I was like, I was already going because, you know, I'm just a fan of movies. And while I want to see strong female characters, you don't have to pander to me too much. And I think that I kind of don't... First of all, Daisy Ridley looks so different in the movie than she does like in the panels and the promotional material that I was like, is that Daisy Ridley? But I think this is, to introduce her character, it's a little bit too much of a beauty shot for me. I understand that's a big part of Star Wars' legacy with the way Princess Leia and Natalie Portman have been portrayed, but I think with Gwendolyn Christie and Lupita Nyong'o, I think people are hoping for maybe a little something grittier, and I think if Star Wars really wants to appeal to female moviegoers, they will have a character that is, you know, just a regular character and part of the group. As I say, that's the key to why Black Widow's been so successful, and so, again, this little damsel in distress, like, oh, who, me? Like, coquettish look. A little disappointing for the first reveal of the character. I guess she was running in that first shot, so that was okay. And then here, more of those, more fighting, more pilot. Okay, there's John Boyega and his stormtrooper thing. He won't reveal. He says he is a stormtrooper. We don't know if he's good or evil now. It's very, very interesting. All right, so he's probably like, should I continue with this battle? All right, that's very cool. I guess some of those ships still are working. All right, moving on here. Oh, by the way, I just want to go back there for a second. Don't you love that stormtrooper flipping through the air? He looks like an action figure. Why aren't his knees bent at all? And that's hilarious. Maybe there's just not, they still have a lot of mobility in these stormtrooper suits. It's really adorable. It's really cute. All right. Moving on. All right, there is another one of our very cool stormtroopers. I like, you know, I think the original Star Wars had a lot of really cool different figures that made for great action figures, and it looks like they're continuing that tradition with the new trilogy. And this is one of the new chrome stormtroopers with like the one shoulder cape. That's a very interesting look. I like this. This is one of my favorite shots of the teaser trailer. I like the red on the panel on the right balanced with the red lighting on the left. That's really strong cinematography. And of course, we all have fond memories of that print on the wall in the back from, you know, when the very first Star Wars movie, A New Hope, when they were running through the halls of the Death Star and old Obi-Wan Kenobi took the eternal nap. I thought that, you know, I think that's just such a visceral memory for me as soon as I see that. But very cool, very nice. Then we've got our new little buddy there. And I love that they revealed at Star Wars Celebration this is a practical special effect. BB-8 actually exists and moves around and rolls like that on his own. I think that's super awesome. It makes me appreciate the character so much more. He's a spunky little guy. They seem to also intimate at Star Wars Celebration that he and R2-D2 don't get along. Who doesn't get along with R2-D2? Although I guess they're both pretty spunky. All right, moving along here. All right, more Daisy Ridley. Again, a little bit too passive for me. I just would like to see her in the thick of it. And then she gives her hand out to John Boyega's character there. She has a lot, you know, very, you know, the way her hand bends here. You're like, oh wow, you're like what is it, like multi-jointed or something? Interesting. And John Boyega, I like John Boyega. I'm very interested to see his role here, but he's not in a stormtrooper outfit, so who knows what's happening here? All right. That's great. Millennium Falcon. Now, the Millennium Falcon, as we all know, is a pretty big ship, but it's not as big as that ship. That's one of my favorite shots of the teaser trailer. Of course, they spent, and again, it's balancing a callback with something new, and it's hard. It's hard to do, and I'm wondering again if J.J. Abrams can pull it off, because we already had the Millennium Falcon fly through that planet, of course, in the original trilogy, and that was a very memorable sequence. So it'll be interesting to see how they can differentiate flying through this giant spaceship. Another huge fade to black. Oh, and then that was worth it. I loved this. This is, again, as I said in my initial reaction, my favorite part of the teaser trailer. Han Solo has returned, and I think that Harrison Ford looks very happy to be there. And you know what? He looks like the character. I'm really pleased with it, and I love seeing him with Chewie. And I'm very, very excited about this. Even though I've been burned so badly with Indiana Jones, for some reason I have hope for this. And it's a great line. And as I said, it raises another very interesting question. Where has Han Solo been? And is that perhaps one of the reasons that his child is out in the wilderness adrift in a shipyard scavenging stuff, right? Or maybe Han Solo asked her to do it. Who knows? But it's a great way to end the teaser trailer. And I think it's funny that Star Wars still knows that its biggest star from the original trilogy is Han Solo. He's kind of like their Wolverine. And I guess the reason I feel so strongly about Luke Skywalker is he's kind of become their Cyclops, and I think in the negative regard, in that he's supposed to be on par, the same footing as Han Solo, but that never really materialized. So if I think they take him toward a slightly darker path, it doesn't have to be fully dark, but kind of like Cyclops in the comics, I think it could make for a more dynamic character, which has a chance of going head to head with the very, very charismatic Han Solo. So there we go, and they smile for the camera. We've got our Force Awakens title card, and it's very, very exciting indeed. So I'm curious, in December, but the tickets are not on sale yet, thank goodness. All right, so I'm curious, what do you guys think of the second teaser trailer? What do you think of it compared to the first teaser trailer? What do you think of the differences in tone? And what do you think of all the new goodies? Is this all on your shopping list, your Christmas wish list? I feel sorry for any other toys that come out during the holiday season. Perhaps that's the biggest reason they released it for Christmas. All right, thank you so much for tuning in to my shot-by-shot analysis. I hope you had fun going over this trailer with me, and stay tuned for more Star Wars coverage, specifically discussing what they revealed in that Star Wars Celebration panel, either later today or early tomorrow. Thanks for watching.